think one of the major problems on personal statements is where the statement doesn't relate to the course for which you've applied. We typically get this where people have 4 applications for medicine and then put some random course like engineering on the end. If we get an application for engineering that has actually got a personal statement about medicine, it will just go straight in the bin. Very often when people are applying for more than one course, they haven't quite decided what they're going to apply for. The statement ends up falling between 2 stools. So if you've applied for both psychology and sociology, you'll find that the statement is not really a fit for either of them. So try and focus on a particular course that you've chosen.
Sometimes when it comes to personal statements, there are things that do turn me off, I have to admit. They fall into a number of different categories. The first I would say is the work experience category. My aunt is a journalist. My dad runs a television company. I'm not awarding you a degree in nepotism, so I'm not really interested in how your family owns various portions of the media industry. I am interested in work experience, if it's relevant, and if you got it off your own back. But I'm not interested in what your family does for a living.
If you're applying for a course that doesn't map nicely onto school curriculum, then you've got to work even harder to make it clear that you understand what the course is about. So for example, if you're applying for neuroscience or anthropology, quite often if I talk to those admissions tutors, they have to reject people because it's clear they haven't really understood what the course is about. So that's vitally important.
It's really quite obvious if a candidate is not particularly clear about what the degree programme actually involves. And this can be for many reasons. So it could be that perhaps you haven't had the opportunity to study an A-level in the subject that you're really interested in. It could be that you're picking a subject that you just think you might get into university with because your grades perhaps won't take you to a programme of study that you would prefer to study. Or it could be just that you haven't done enough research about the topic that actually really does fascinate you.
So the main thing that would put us off a candidate based on their personal statement is if it's badly written. I think in this day and age there's absolutely no excuse for not running it through a spell checker. So that is absolutely important, to make sure that you've read it carefully and get someone else to read it, get a member of your family or a friend to read it as well, so that make sure that it makes sense.
If I'm reading a personal statement and it's laden with mistakes, be that poor punctuation, poor grammar, bad sentence structure, then I really think, gosh, the student maybe doesn't care quite so much about this application as I might want them to. Sometimes it's a matter of just being too close to your writing, so you can be really absorbed in the writing process of putting together your personal statement and you think you've created a masterpiece. I do this when I'm writing and I'm sure it's the same for you. What you need to then do is put it down for a few days and then come back to it, because when you come back to it you'll have fresh eyes and you're probably likely to see any of the errors that you might have made, and you can at that time go back and fix them. So give yourself some distance and go back. One idea per sentence, one major idea in any given paragraph that you're writing, and keep these writing skills in mind when you come to create your personal statement. It is a piece of work that will evidence whether or not you have the capability of extended writing, and of course for most degrees that is a skill that we will be assessing as you progress through your degree.
The first thing that you need to do before you even begin to write your personal statement is to start researching the courses you want to apply for. You should quite quickly realise that the degrees that you're applying for across those different universities have something in common. Beyond just the title of that degree, they might have a particular way of studying. You need to start using your skills as an online detective. You need to start looking at the online prospectuses, but going further than that. Most websites, most online prospectuses will have links to further information. That's an invitation to you to look at the course structure. Look at what the modules are offering. Look at what you get to choose. Look at some of the subjects that you'll be discussing. That's where you start your research.
Again, my subject, psychology, the course at Oxford is fairly neuroscience based. So if you end up talking about health psychology or forensic psychology, then it's not going to be relevant to the course, and we're going to feel that it's not the right course for you.
Ever since I was young, I loved film. Well, who doesn't? Yeah? Or, oh, I'll tell you another good one, yeah. In my free time, I like socialising and hanging out with my friends. You'd be a really strange person if you didn't like those two things. So I would suggest that those aren't actually good things to say. It doesn't tell me anything about you other than the fact that you're a probably sane and rational and quite nice person, okay? So I would really steer clear of those general statements. There's a statistic that's really quite alarming about the number of personal statements that begin from a young age. I've been interested in accounting or business studies or media studies or whatever it might be. Don't start from a young age. We're not interested in your formative years. What we are interested in is what you've been doing very recently.
Don't try to be too clever in your personal statement. There was a tendency at one stage, clearly some advice on a website, to start your personal statement with a quotation. And at one stage I was saying this in a talk to a school, and this student came up to me afterwards and said, oh, I was going to start with this quotation, and this is the quotation I'd got, but I just really love music. And I said, well, start with that. That was the genuine enthusiasm coming from the student. Don't try and be too clever. Just try and get a sense of what really is motivating you in the subject.